14. For people who speak in this way, make it clear that they are seeking a homeland.
15. If they had been thinking of the land that they had left behind, they would have had opportunity to return. Altogether.
16. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. Indeed, He has prepared a city for them.
The deaf Lord agreed. And God spoke all these words, saying, I'm the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, that shall have no other God before me.
Lord, have mercy upon us, and incline our hearts to keep this law.
Hear what Christ our Savior said. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
Glory be to the Father, and to thy Son, and to thy Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, it is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Teachers will now take the class.
Okay, good. I can see this.
Well, good morning
Good morning.
to everyone, and thank our superintendent for opening up for us, for those on the conference line and on the various streaming channels. Our lesson today is, pull it back up, the meaning of faith. And as we were, I read the lesson yesterday and was going to teach through the lesson. But as we were reading the scripture this morning, some stuff popped out to me. So I'm going to kind of take a different approach, if I may. But as I take this approach, please relate it back to the lesson, or if you have something, please share it. But you remember on Wednesday in our Bible study, we kind of started, and we hadn't finished yet, but we started on 1 Timothy, 6th chapter, and the first two verses. Well, we talked about as far as Paul telling the people at that time to honor those that are in charge of them. Even if you're in slavery, or even if you are in bondage, you still honor that person that is in charge of you, and it's not for them, it is for you. Because we never know who's watching us. We never know who's paying attention to us. And somebody is just trying to have an excuse not to follow Christ. Somebody's trying to have an excuse, well, if them church folk is doing that, why should I follow them? Why should I do? Why should I do right? But also in verse 2, remember, we talked about if that person that was in charge, or that person that was over you, was a Christian, you don't use that against them to try to leverage what you want out of them. In other words, you know, what would Jesus do? God told me to tell you to lend me $10, right? God told me to tell you to cook me a cake or cook me some dinner. Don't do that, because if that's your brother or sister in Christ, you should do even more to try to help them out. And that just goes to show with us, as African Americans or as blacks, we should do whatever we can to try to help our fellow brother and sister out, because we know how hard it is to do stuff.
Amen.
And if they have a business, we should support that business, because we know how hard it is and the struggle. And I know what a lot of us say. And someone when we talked on Wednesday, I got a text, and somebody asked me the question, well, how can I support the black businesses when I go in there and they got the attitudes? How can I do that? It ain't about them. You're doing it to help, right? And when you walk in, you just do what you got to do, help out, and leave, because you've done your part. And a lot of times we try to use that. Sister Dan just dying to come through. I don't know what she just dying to come through that door. She just want to use that door. You just want to use that door. No, come on. We have to put that apart. Set that apart, right? And I understand you want to be treated right. The customer's supposed to be always right, and you don't want to deal with the attitude. But sometimes that is just a test for us. Because if we're looking at everything that we do as a test, and the Lord has us, that niceness that we have, matter of fact, let me just do it this way. That might be the only Christ-like that comes into that building that day. That may be the only holy thing that comes in that building that day. So you want to leave your presence or your spirit in there, because remember, Jesus told his disciples, when you go to a town, you know, go to one of the house, go to the elder's house, and if they receive you, you leave your spirit there, you leave something there. But if they don't, you dust off your feet and you keep going. So we have to try to support any and everybody, regardless of how they treat us, because it's all about Christ. It's all about Christ, and it just may be, like I said, it just may be a test for us, and that's something I have to look at it as. Anytime I'm dealing with somebody, it's not about them. It's all about me and my response and my actions. And if I can keep that in my mindset, I'm doing a little bit better, because no matter how they come at me, it's my test. It ain't about them. Yeah, they coming at me crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna knock them in the head, but it ain't about. It's about me, because if I do that, I messed up. If I do that, they're gonna be the victim. And you see in a lot of these Facebook things, as we call the Facebook Karens and all of that right now, they act. Then when we have the reaction, they play the victim. Every time. Every time. So we got to realize, just even in that aspect, it's about what we do. As Christians, it's about what we do. And that goes into our lesson this morning. And Sister Diane, what I was talking about, I had intention of teaching the lesson this morning. But as we read the scripture, something popped up to me. So I'm going to kind of take a different route. So we see, we're talking about faith. And it's about us, because we got to keep the faith no matter what. True. No matter what. And the first thing that popped up to me is that verse. Let me get back to it. That verse 4. Yes, we should know. You know, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, and the convictions of things not seen. I need to put this in terms, because we always talk about faith. And every time we define faith, faith is, it's mustard seed, a little mustard seed. A lot of us don't even know what a mustard seed is, but we know what faith is. A mustard seed is smaller than a sunflower seed. Just it's small, very small. Then we now faith is the things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. What does that mean? What does that mean? I do it this way. Every last one of us have went from here to either Panama City or from here to Tallahassee. And you had to cross a bridge, either going to Panama City or going to Tallahassee. You had to cross a bridge. Did you get out, park your car, put on your scuba gear, jump in the water, and check to make sure the bridge was stable? Did we get out the car, walk, and just jump up and down on the bridge to make sure it was stable before we even started the trip? Did we call the Department of Engineering, Army of Engineer, Corps of Engineers, and ask them when the last time they did the study on the bridge? No. We just rolled on across that bridge because we knew that bridge was going to keep us. The assurance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Because we hoped that bridge was going to keep us. And we didn't see how it was built. We don't know who built it. We don't know if it was on a Friday and it was Labor Day weekend and they were just trying to get off to get to the club. We don't know. But we were, it was things not seen. We knew it was built right. When we get home and we get ready to sit in our favorite chair, I ain't gonna even say at home. When we go to a restaurant and we get ready to sit at that table, in that chair, or that booth, we don't ask them how many people sat in it. We don't shake it to make sure it's okay, right? Matter of fact, we don't even turn and look before we sit down. We just sit. And we know that chair is gonna hold us, all right? The evidence of things, the assurance of things hoped for. And we know it was built to, we didn't even ask what the weight limit is on this chair, right? Because if we're at a buffet, we know we're going to be heavier than what we was when we sat down. But we don't ask all that. We just have the faith and know we're going to do it.
But you said something that struck me. We're operating on our faith in so many different areas, so many different dimensions. We're having faith that X, and X did what they were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we put our ultimate faith and our ultimate hope, of course, where it should be. But we exercise faith in a whole bunch of ways.
A whole bunch of ways. And the thing is, when it comes to our spiritual faith, though, that's what we start lacking in. Mm-hmm. We lack, and we put so much physical faith in a lot of different stuff. But when it comes to the spiritual faith, we question, we just lack in spiritual faith. And all of us have fell victim to the lack of spiritual faith. Because when things start happening to us that we can't control, and we don't know how to control it, we don't know how to deal with it, it challenges our faith. But we got to be reassured that the Lord has us. And what I realized in this, that verse 4, it said, by faith, Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain. Through this, he received approval as righteous. God himself giving approval to his gifts. He died, but through his faith, he still speaks. As we know the story of Cain and Abel, Abel was actually the first person murdered in the Bible. But he had faith to do what was right before it even got to that point. And it's kind of, I think, ironic that the writer of Hebrews used that first when we know the story of Cain and Abel. Because somebody will say, well, he had all the faith in the world, but God still didn't save him. God still allowed him to be murdered. God still allowed all of that to happen to him, right? And what I realize is this. We don't know our outcome. We don't know what the end's going to be. All we can concentrate on is what is in front of us, that situation at hand. And we have to keep the faith knowing that God has us. Knowing that no matter what happens, he has us, especially in the age of COVID. We have to remain faithful and do what he asks us to do. What is he asking us to do right now? He's asking us to, we need to wear our masks. We need to be vigilant. We will love for people to get vaccinated. But we got to do our due diligence to remain safe and have the faith that the Lord is going to keep us. You remember I talked about this because somebody said it before, that if I don't get COVID, the Lord kept me from it. If I get it and he heals me, he healed me from it. If I catch it and I perish, I'm with him. But I kept the faith. I'm keeping the faith in all three stages. No matter what happens, I'm keeping the faith because I realize I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And my ultimate goal is to see him one day. Now, granted, none of us want to see him today or tomorrow. But, we hope and pray that one day, really, let's just be honest, we hope and pray that one day never comes. But we know it's going to come. Right? So when we look at Abel right here, yes, Abel didn't know what lied ahead of him. But he knew he needed to be faithful because his dad taught him that you got to give your best. Right? Because I want us to look at this with Abel for a second. I'm going to move on. You had Abel and Cain, and Abel were the first two kids. All right? So it's not like we've been taught, he's been taught about a tenth right now because that hadn't came into practice yet. It's not like he knew about tithes and offering because that hadn't came into way yet and the practice yet. He's going by what his mom and dad taught him. And Adam taught him to give your best to the Lord because that's what Adam had to start doing. So when it came to the point of him doing what was right, he realized that I need to give the Lord my best. That's what we got to always do. Give the Lord our best. And have the faith that the Lord is going to provide for us. See, what we mess up at is when we don't give the Lord our best and expect him to give us his best. Amen. We have it's something, if you ever did data entry or if you ever did anything programming wise, if you get junk in, you're going to get junk out. If you don't put the right information into the system, how can you expect to get the right information out of the system? All right. Without faith, if you're not putting in the right stuff, how can you expect to get the right outcome? All right. How can you expect the Lord to keep you? So Abel knew what he had to do, and he gave his best. Now, in that, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, we got to realize there's going to be some people that's not going to like it. All right? And I just want to throw this out there to us as a group. The first murder that happened in the Bible were twins. They were siblings. All right? We got to realize this. Families are always going to be dysfunctional. They've been dysfunctional from the beginning.
Amen.
All right? So if family is going to be dysfunctional, friendships are too. Right? So why do we get upset when family turns on us? Because it's physical. All right? They shouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. But we got to have the faith. I did what I supposed to have did. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, I don't care what, I did what I supposed to have did. Exactly. I kept the faith. I remained faithful. Mm-hmm. I prayed. I tried to reach out to him. I did what I'm supposed to do. And that goes back to that first thing I said. It's all about us in a situation. And somebody might say, Sister Adrian, somebody might say, well, that's selfish of us. You know how our generation is. Why you been, it ain't about you. Mm-hmm. Well, in that situation, it is. Because I can't control what you say. I can't control your thoughts. I can't control your actions. But what can I control? Me. In situations. Now, granted, yes, we're supposed to love them. We're supposed to help other people. I'm not talking about that part of it. I'm talking about when we interact with people that are coming at us wrong. When we're interacting with people in general. It's not about that person right there. It's all about how we respond or how we act. Even in generosity, if somebody comes up to me in a generous way, it's still about me and how I react.
Amen.
Because my faith tells me that I got to love my neighbor as myself. It don't say love my neighbor as they love me. And I used to say this, that I don't want people to love me the way they love themselves, because some people don't love themselves. And I realized I was wrong, because the Bible doesn't say that. It says love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Not about how they love you, it's about me. So if that homeless man comes up to me, asks me for $1, asks me for this, and I know he's going to use that money to go buy whatever, it's still about what I do in that situation. Because remember, Jesus told us, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was naked, you didn't clothe me. When I was in jail, you didn't come and see about me first. He said, when was I hungry and I didn't feed? When you were hungry and I didn't feed you? When were you naked and I didn't clothe you? If you did it to the least, you did it to me. So if we're thinking about this faith, the evidence of things, hope and assurance of things, if we're thinking about that faith, right? Anything I do, I'm entertaining maybe angels unknown. It might be Jesus' spirit in somebody. Or better yet, the devil could have walked up to heaven that day, and the Lord said, God said, well, try my servant Chris. And now I'm dealing with something that I don't know that I'm dealing with, but it's about me. And if I always keep the mindset and keep the faith that no matter what happens, I got to do what I'm supposed to do. Don't that prepare us for any situation? Even when it comes unexpectedly. We're prepared for it. Don't they tell us we always should? We live in Florida. We should always be prepared for hurricanes. Just like they tell people in Oklahoma and all that, you should always be prepared for a tornado. When you build your house, you need to build a tornado shelter. We should always be prepared. Hurricanes shouldn't sneak up on us, which it can, because we kind of know, but we shouldn't have to run to the store when the hurricanes come, because we should already be prepared for it. Every June is hurricane season. In our faith, we should be already prepared, because we know hurricanes are going to come. We know storms are going to come. We know all of this is going to come. The difference is we don't know exactly when it's going to come. Just like when you're having a good day, you walking in the grocery store, you just having a good time in the grocery store, just you and the Lord. You already got in your mind what you're going to buy, even the stuff we don't need. We're going to buy it, and lo and behold, devil shows up. And sometimes you got all the way through the grocery store. You done got in line, and here comes somebody asking the food. Right? But it's about what, and when they come at us and say N-word, you need to move, I was him first. It's about how we respond. I ain't gonna even look at you, Sister Diane.
Amen.
It's about how we respond in that instance. And I use that because that word coming from the wrong person gets the right response from, well, actually gets the wrong response from us, right? And when it comes out, who is at fault? Us. Right? So even in that instance, we got to keep the faith because it's about us. right? Abel kept the faith, right? Even though the outcome wasn't what he wanted, even though he ended up being killed, he still kept the faith. And what I like about this, and what dawned on me, it says, but through his faith, he still speaks. Through his faith, yeah, somebody will say, well, I don't want to speak in death, you know. But think about this. Aren't we still telling the story of Martin Luther King? Because his faith. You know, Malcolm X didn't believe in Christ. You know, he was a Muslim, but he still remained faithful, right? He remained faithful to his cause. And we're speaking of him now, right? When you look at, and I'm not going to talk about, like, you know, I could say Trayvon Martin, Martin Lee Anderson, and all of that, right? But I want to look at people that did stuff, you know, social justice in the movement. When you look at Emmett Till, he remained faithful. So we're still speaking of his story, right? We got to realize, if we think about this, we are in this world, but not of this world. And if we put all of our trust in the Lord, and we are servants of the Lord, that means we're serving him for his benefit. We're doing things to uplift him. He has us. That's what faith is. You know, I realize it's not I realize everything I'm doing, yes, it's about me in that moment. But I'm doing it for him. How many of us, you know, that said to ourselves when we were out doing stuff, if my mom and dad catch me doing it, what they gonna think? Right? And sometimes we still do it because we hard-headed at times. But a lot of the times we had that thought. Do we ever sit there and think what Jesus is gonna think when we do this? Some people don't. So when we look at that, Abel found himself in a peculiar situation. And because of his faith, because he did the right thing, people hated on him. All right. And he found himself being murdered, but the Lord still had Abel. The Lord still had him. The Lord had him, as we say, Lord, keep me from my early morning rising. All right. He had him. Right. And I like what it says, despite suffering a violent end to his earthly life, God worked out everything for Abel's good in an eternal sense. Abel was accepted by God while his murder was not. And Abel's example of faith is still a potent lesson. God still had it. And that's what we want to realize. No matter what the outcome is. You know, we sang them songs, I'm going to wait and see what the end's going to be. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to trust in the Lord until I die. I'm stay on the battlefield for the Lord until the Lord had him until death. How many of us have, well, I use Bobby Bowden as an example since he just transitioned this morning. 2 weeks ago, when they found out, the story came out that he had the terminal illness. He said, I am at peace. I'm at peace. How many of us have seen loved ones on their bed, on their deathbed, and the first thing they say, I'm at peace. I'm okay with whatever the Lord has for me. Because their faith has made them whole. I'm okay because I realized that I got to pass through this world. It was never about this world. I was always trying to get to my actual home. That's just like with storms and all of that. Because we know we got our own bed. No matter how tired we are when we're traveling, if we can make it back home without stopping at a hotel, what we're going to do? We're going to keep rolling. We're going to keep on rolling because it is something about our own bed. It is something about our own house. And let me do it this way. Let's just be honest, because that may be our own bathroom. Let's just do it this way. Can we keep it real? We will hold it and hold it for an hour, pass by every, to get to what? Our own. Right? Because it's just something about our own. We're comfortable with our own. We got to realize this world is full of mess. Right? It's full of it. And them restrooms that we didn't want to go in because we don't know who was in that restroom. We don't know what. This world is just like that. We don't know what the next minute holds. All right? But we keep traveling. We keep going. And just like when we're holding it, trying to get to our own bathroom, we trust we're going to make it. We got faith that we're going to make it. Assurance of things hoped for. It's faith. Right?
You still young.
Yeah. So you got to realize it's the same way we're traveling in this barren land. When we say, guide me, oh, that great Jehovah Pilgrim in this barren land, I'm weak, but thou might hold me with that powerful hand. That us keeping the faith to try to get through. But something else I wanted to point out here, and that is this right here. They talked about by faith, Enoch was taken so that he did not experience death, and he was not found because God had taken him, for it was a test before he was taken away that he had pleased God. Then it goes to verse 6, and without faith it is impossible to please God. So we see both Abel and Enoch please God. Now watch this. What was funny, and you see Abel, he pleased God, but God, he ended up dying in a violent death, right? Enoch pleased God, and God ended up taking him, but without going through any of that, right? We never know what our end is going to be. We don't know if we're going to die peaceful in our sleep or by a straight bullet. We don't know. But we have the faith in knowing that whatever the end is going to be, is not the end. That's why, if you notice, I've stopped saying, I've tried to stop saying, or when I say, I would say the transitioning of someone's loved one. I've tried to stop, and I have to catch myself when somebody passes away, and I tell them, sorry for your loss. Because when you lose something, you don't know where it's at. If we believed in Christ and our loved one believed in Christ, we know exactly where they are. Then on the flip side of that, if they didn't, we probably still know. So they're not lost. They're either in one or two places, right? So I try to tell people now, my condolences for the transitioning of your loved one, because we're going to transition from this to eternal life, wherever that eternal life is. And our faith is the Lord is going to keep us. We see two examples here. The Lord kept both of these people. Yes, their deaths were different, but he kept both of them. And they were faithful. But it's that verse 6 that we got to look at when it deals with faith. It says, and without faith, it is impossible to please God. For whoever would approach him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. I want to read that again, because if we look at this, when we look at verse 4, by faith Abel offered to God. By faith Enoch was taken. But it says right here, and without faith it is impossible to please God, for whoever would approach him must believe that he exists. If you don't believe he exists, how are you going to approach him? Right? But you remember when he told him, how can you say you love me that you have not seen, but hate the person that's right next to you on a daily basis? How can you do that? You can't seek me and believe in me and have hatred in your heart.
Amen.
All right? You cannot do it. In other words, you know of me, but you're not seeking me. It is one thing to know of something. It's another thing to seek it. How many of these movies you seen that had a hidden treasure somewhere? They went on a treasure hunt. People knew about it, right? But it was different than knowing about it than seeking it. And the people that went on the treasure hunt, you had people that was against them, that didn't believe and told them they were wasting their time. How many people tell us when it comes to our faith, our religion, you just wasting your time going out to that church? You wasting your time praying to that God. You just wasting your time paying your tithes and offering. You're wasting your time doing all of that. No, I'm not wasting my time. I'm seeking the Lord. And when I find him, he's going to make it all better. Now, whether he makes it better on this side or that side of the Jordan River, I'm okay. Because I know he has me. That's the faith Abel had. That's the faith Enoch had. But not only that, that is the faith Noah and Abraham had. They seek God. And that verse right there, without faith, is impossible to please him. It didn't say, and that's a definite. Without faith, it is impossible. That don't give no room. It's impossible. It didn't say without faith you may not be able to please God. It just says without it, you cannot please God. And when you talk about that faith again, and I'm gonna go back to the mustard seed, it's just a little. You don't need that much. You just need a little. Without it, you can't do it. But it didn't say you need a lot of faith. That's why you notice in that first verse, it kind of explains what faith is, right? You just need a little bit. Lord, I'm worried. I got to go to the doctor. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm losing sleep. But Lord, I know you got me. I'm still worried because that's Lord know. Lord know I'm not perfect. But he didn't ask me to be perfect. He just asked me to be faithful.
Amen.
And I don't need a lot of faith. I just need a little bit. So Lord, I don't know what's going to happen. But Lord, I know you got me. Then we wake up the next morning, Lord, I still don't know. I'm even more nervous now, Lord. But you got me. And he knows our heart. And he knows we sincere with it. Because we're not lying to him, we're not lying to ourselves. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't understand what's going to happen. But I know the Lord has us. When we look at Abraham, Abraham had to exhibit his faith twice. First time the Lord came to Abraham and said, Abraham, I know you're comfortable in Marianne. I know you're comfortable in Malone. I know you're comfortable right here, but I need you to pack up everything you own and move. Well, Lord, where I'm going, I tell you when you get there, you just go that way. Take your whole family. Abraham then said, well, Lord, I ain't got that much money in the bank. I ain't got, how am I going to do this? He just got up and had the faith and said, Lord, if you tell me, I'm going to go. Sometimes we got to realize the Lord is going to wake us up and say, I need you to go. And he's not going to make us go from one location to, way across from Tallahassee to California. Then again, he might. But we got to have the faith and say, Lord, okay. Or have you ever had a situation to where you woke up that morning or throughout that day, you didn't have no plans to go anywhere? You say it's a Saturday or Monday, I'm off, I'm not doing nothing. I'm not even walking out of my house. And lo and behold, before you even know it, you're in your car going to the store. And when you get to the store, you be like, why did I even come to the store? And then you meet somebody or see somebody or something happens. And then you realize that's why you were there. You got to have the faith. And and even when we question, because all of us question, that's that's just what that's the flesh in us. But Abraham kept going. But not only that, after Abraham and the Lord had a conversation, and it was the Lord telling Abraham that I'm going to make you the father of many nations. It wasn't Abraham asking the Lord, can I be the father of many nations? Right? Can I be the father of all nations? It was the Lord telling Abraham, I'm finna do this for you. And Abraham and Sarah not having a child, Abraham saying, well, Lord, since you said you was going to do this, it has to be one of my servants because we can't have kids. And what did the Lord tell him? No, just be patient. I got something in store for you. And here it comes. He has a child, Isaac, and Isaac is born. And what the next thing the Lord does? Tell Abraham, you got to sacrifice your only son. Lord, you just told me you finna make me the father of all nations. You just blessed me with this child. And now you finna take it. All right. What does that tell me? We don't know what the Lord's plan is. Right? But guess what we got to do? We got to have that trust. We got to have that faith, knowing even though I don't understand what it is, I know you got me. Because remember, on the way up there on that mountain, Isaac asked the question. He said, Dad, hold on. I see the wood. I see the fire. Where the lamb at? I don't see the sacrifice. Right? And what did Abraham tell him? The Lord will provide. Now, did he believe that? He probably was saying in hope. That probably could have been his prayer. The Lord will provide. In the back of his mind, he said, Lord, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to have the strength to even do this to my child. But Lord, I know you're going to provide. But he kept going and kept going and kept going until the Lord provided. When we're dealing with our faith, going back to that original thing, it's about us, right? Anything that we deal with, any person that we come in, it's about us. At that moment, with Abraham, just to use it as an example, it wasn't about Isaac. It wasn't about the person that he was seeing. It was about his actions. And because he remained faithful in his actions, it blessed everybody else. So going back to this, if it's about us in that moment, when we're in the grocery store, using the example that I used earlier, we're in that grocery store, and that person comes up to us and say, N-word, I was him first, you need to move or go back to where you belong. It ain't about what they're saying, right? It's about us in that moment. And we have the ability to either bless our other generations or curse our generations. This is about us. It's about our action. And if I know that, and I'm trying to keep every inch in me, every bone in my body wants to pick up something that, not even pick up some in the buggy, but pick up the whole buggy and hit them across the head with it, right? And show them how much of it I could be at this time, because they're finna have to pull me out of this whole store, because we're finna tear up this whole grocery store, right? I can't do that. Because time I tear up the whole grocery store, not only am I not going to be able to come in here, my kids ain't going to want to come in here, because they're going to say, time the kids come in here, yeah, that was the one, mama or daddy that tore up this whole.
But something, Pastor, that helps me a lot of times. I don't make it 100% all the time, but something that does help me is if you would just look around and somebody that you can relate to. I think sometimes we as people, we have a certain connection.
Right.
You can look at somebody's eyes and just the expression. You just shake your head and say, we ain't gonna feed this. And that helps so often.
Right. And it does. Because sometimes just that look at somebody else, right, is the Lord and that other person saying,
Giving you a way to escape.
a way to escape. It's giving you your way out. When we say, and I got it because you brought it up, Sister Diane, the Lord will,
I'm sorry.
you go ahead. No, but because the Lord will not put nothing more on you than you can bear. That's what we say, right? The Lord will not put more on us than we can bear. You know that's not exactly what it says. It says through everything that goes on, the Lord will give you a way out. We've taken that to say He won't put more on us than we can bear. All right. Just that moment when somebody's coming at you wrong, and you look at somebody else and they just shake their head like, I can't believe they said that. The Lord was giving you that way out. He was giving you that saying. He looked at you through somebody else's eyes and say, don't worry about it. It was that way out. All right. I did a sermon once, which I probably need to redo it. Be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. All right. And in that, and I think it was in that sermon, we talked about having the Lord giving you a way out. Right? And it may be in a different sermon, I can't remember, but it is just like that friend that calls and say, I seen your man or your woman at the club with somebody. You need to get down here. And the first thing you do is go look for your keys and can't find your keys. The Lord has given you a way out. But what do? We pick up the phone, girl, I can't find my keys. I'm on the way.
You always got help to do wrong.
You always got help to do wrong, right? All right. Or better yet, I use this for the guys. You know, you tell your wife or your significant other that you got to go lay hands on Sister Maybelle. And as you're going down there, you get a flat tire. And you look and you ain't got no jacket. The Lord gave you a way out. All right. But what do? We in-rig it and figure out a way to jack the car up now. We're in a whole lot of more trouble. The Lord always gives us a way out of that situation. What we have to do, one, is remain faithful, and two, stay on watch. All right. We know stuff is going to happen. We know it's going to happen. All right. Because the Lord has already given us the warning. They're going to hate on you, not because of you, but because of me. All right? He used Job and said, man born of a woman in a few days, and it's full of trouble. He told us we are not of this world, but we're in this world. So people are going to hate, people are going to treat us differently. And we've seen that. We've seen it. We've seen it from other races. We've seen it from our own race. We've seen it from our own family. We've seen it from our own friends. But we got to remain faithful because we know that's what the Lord has already said. And not only that, we've already seen how dysfunctional families are going to be because we've seen Cain and Abel. But the Lord still had Abel. We see how dysfunctional families could be when we see Noah. But because after Noah got through the storm, his own daughters got him drunk. So we see how dysfunctional families can be. But then not only that, Jesus took it to another level and showed us people that even break bread with us is still not for us. So it's still about what we do in that situation. And when I tie all of that in, when we go back to the Bible study that we had on Wednesday, when we talked about 1 Timothy 6, when we look at that and they talk about being in bondage or being in bondage as a slave at that particular time, and Paul was telling them to still honor that person that is over you, still show honor to that person. It's not about that person. It's all about us. Because people are going to be people. It is up to us to be Christ-like. Because people still going to lie. Right? Because the Lord told us, everybody that say, Lord, Lord, will still not enter the gates of heaven. He tells us all of this, but do we take it all in? He tells us all of this. So if we watch this before the youth come in, if we look at this right here, everybody that says, Lord, Lord, is not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. Right? People are going to hate on you, not because of who you are, but because of me. Right? We look at them denying Jesus. One of you, before the rooster crows 3 times, you're going to deny me. One of you is going to betray me. Then we see somebody denying, you're not going to believe. We see that, right? We see the Lord telling us to put on the full armor of God in Ephesians, right? We just look at that for. They're not going to believe. Everybody that says, Lord, Lord, is not going to enter. That's telling me everybody that comes to church ain't going to enter the kingdom of heaven. Everybody that claims they're saved is not saved. That's what that tells me. So the Lord telling me to put on my whole armor of God, that means every time I walk out, it's about me. I got to make sure I'm right and I'm equipped. Because somebody is going to try me that day. And I might make it through that day, okay. I probably make it through that day, but every day, I'm not going to make it through unscathed. So somebody's going to try me. So I need to make sure every day I put on the whole armor of God when I walk out my door. I got to stay prayed up because it's about me. But not only that, because Job said, man born of a woman is few short days and is full of trouble. All right, Lord, you already told me it's full of trouble. But if I go back even further than that, I realize that the devil can't get me without your approval. So I'm realizing all of this. But watch this. What really brings it home for me is this right here. Not only can you not get to me because but because the devil has to go through you, Lord, and you wrap your hedge of protection around me. But watch this, Lord. I remember when you went in your wilderness experience and came out, the devil tempted you. But watch this. Before that wilderness experience, you told me that you were led in the wilderness by what? The Spirit. So the Lord will lead me into situations that's going to test me. That I'm going to have to come out tried and proven. Because I'm adding all this together because I'm jumping back. Because if he's going to lead me into the wilderness to be tested, that means he's going to put me on the potter's wheel. Because what did he say? Sometimes you're on the potter's wheel and you got to be reformed and reshaped. And with that potter, sometimes you got to have some fire and all of that to be remolded. I realize all of this. And I done jumped through New Testament, Old Testament, but it all boils down to one thing. I got to keep the faith. Because even when the potter had that vessel on the wheel, on the potter's wheel, he remained faithful to that molding. He knew he was going to create a great piece of work. Right? He knew it. When Jesus went into the wilderness led by the Spirit, he remained faithful to the Father because he knew the Father had him. When Job went through what Job went through, he remained faithful to the Father. Because he knew the Lord had him. Even with Abraham going through what Abraham went through, he remained faithful. So what I want us to realize this morning, when we talk about faith, we understand what faith is. We understand faith is being able to go over that bridge and not worry about it. So to go through any situation and not worry about it, right? You remember the song, He's a Bridge Over Troubled Water? How many times have you rolled over Chattahoochee River? Especially on 90. You might not see it so much on the interstate, but if you ride down 90, Chattahoochee River, you look and see all them gates open. The water is just raging. And what do? You just ride over it just to come.
Just like you ain't see it.
Just like you ain't see it. Right? Because guess what? That's a bridge over what?
Troubled water.
And you remain faithful. So we got to realize the Lord gives us signs. All right? He told us in His Word, but He gives us signs on a daily basis. That bridge over troubled water, all of us have went over that bridge and was fine. And we had the faith when we got in the middle of that bridge. We might have thought it, what I'm going to do if this thing collapses. But we had the faith in knowing it would. Because if you didn't have the faith, you wouldn't have kept going. You wouldn't have went over that bridge. I know Sister Anderson. I don't know why I thought about you and Sister Anderson, in case she might stop and get somebody else to drive. But she's still going. Right? So we got to remain faithful. And we got to realize it's about what we do in that situation. And to our adults, since our youth have walked in, even when we're dealing with them, right? And we want to choke them, we want to throw them out, it's about what we do in that situation. It's still not about them because we got to remain faithful even when other people don't. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Now we'll have a high point from our youth class.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sometimes faith means that we don't always see the outcome. We just trust and believe in God's superpower to come and help us. Though things may not happen when we want them to, everything works out according to God's time. Faith gives us hope to keep pressing on every day.
Amen.
Now we'll have a high point from our adult class.
Good morning, church group.
Good morning.
Today's lesson is the meaning of faith, which is the key word. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Because faith gives us the hope to prepare life situations and circumstances to hold on to God's promises. Now, our commentary is focused a lot on some of the stuff that we have said our history showed us through life struggle like racism and the things that our foreparents went through, slavery and whatnot. And it just so happened, I was watching the world news yesterday, and August the 7th, 1965, Lyndon Bryan Johnson signed the Voting Rights Bill. Okay, his youngest daughter came together with our current vice president and working with her on voter suppression and voters' rights. And she openly said it on national TV that, now that been 56 years ago, she openly said that we have been going backward for 40 years. Now this is a white woman said it. But the sad part of that story, you know most of us can't realize that. And some of us don't know that. You see, I was a teenager in 1965. So, so in other words, faith without work is dead. So we're gonna have to understand, read, and understand the need of ourselves. Now I know this sounds deviating from the lesson, but it's the truth. It's the thing we need to know. Therefore, as believers and disciples of Christ, we must keep the faith, we must pray, and trust God to keep His word and promise.
And now we'll have a review from our pastor.
Thank you, Superintendent, Tara, you, Sister Linda, thank y'all for your review, and Brother McKay for the review. How much time I got? I got 10 minutes. Try to get all this in 10 minutes. The Lord works in mysterious ways. We always hear that, right? All things work for the good of those who love the Lord. It's funny that you mentioned the voters' right. Vision has a 10-point thing that he wants us to kind of go through and take part in. I will be emailing that. It's with socialists dealing with voter rights suppression and different stuff. We got to realize that through the years, you know that song, "The Lord has been good to us, good to me." The Lord has looked after us for so long. But it was because our ancestors put in the work. And while they put in the work, they kept the faith. We are standing on the shoulders of some great people. My fear is they're not standing on the shoulders of great people. Fear. We've been standing on money that we forgot to do the exercises to build up our shoulders. We hadn't did the work we supposed to do. So when we look at social justice, and we're going to start doing some more work. I know you're happy about that, aren't you? Yeah. So that is something I'm glad you brought that up, because we do have to put in more work. Our ancestors put in the work and kept the faith. When we look at right now, I saved this for when everybody came in. Our life application said a mouthful. In the beginning, it says, "Walking in faith is not easy. Indeed, nothing causes us to do is easy." It is not. If it was easy, everybody would do it. You know that saying? If in a meeting that was easy, everybody. Right. Walking in faith is not easy. And when we look at our